我还记得我的华语老师哦，在我很没有办法集中精神听他讲课的时候，他就拿那个布袋丢了我，然后狠狠地骂了我说：“陈喜明，你这一辈子会成功，我头砍下来。”我很爱书，但是没有人能够有很好的教导我、引导我。
As a person with Asperger's, trying to get good grades was quite a rough patch in my academic life. I struggled to understand abstract concepts, especially for mathematics. I was bullied relentlessly. It damaged my self-confidence immensely.
我姓陈，名叫喜明哦，很多饮食界都称我为铁人厨子啊，或者是铁人名厨。我的整个生命从年轻一直到现在的路都是上上下下，很辛苦，但是很多时候我都克服了，我都站得住脚。
53岁的陈喜明是本地名厨，目前他在高级餐馆当执行总厨。喜明对烹饪很感兴趣，无师自通。年轻时，他从在厨房打杂洗碗做起。由于无心向学，他中二辍学后，本想报读厨艺学校，接受正规的厨艺训练。
我还记得，我就去了 Shardeck 的服务柜台那边哦。但怎么知道当时让我心碎了，就是因为我在询问的时候，服务柜台的人员告诉我说：“小弟弟，我们这里没有办法聘请，就是没有办法拿你，因为我本身没有 O level， 没有 O 水准跟 N 水准，最低要 N 水准。”这样子的给他一讲，其实就愣了，就觉得说这整个社会没有办法容纳我了。
陈喜明无法念完中学，小学成绩也一落千丈，但并不是因为他对念书没有兴趣，而是上课做作业都会碰到巨大难题。
打个比方说 ，B 跟 D 小写，永远是我的一个很大的障碍来的。所以认识我的人都觉得，为什么我只能写 capital letter？ 平时的你在读一张篇章的时候，很容易就把它读了，但我不行，我要读2排字都已经很辛苦了，这读完了上面2排，忘记了前面的2排，就是一直这样子反反复复，很辛苦。好像英语字嘛 ，change、charge、changes， 哇，这些是能 killing 的，它会让我很乱。
40多年前，陈喜明并不知道自己患有阅读障碍。当时的社会对阅读障碍的认知也并不深，检测的渠道也并不多。
我很爱书，我很想读书，但是在当时的情况下，没有人能够有很好的鼓励来教导我、引导我，让我真正的把书读好。
My name is Caleb Hing. I'm currently waiting for national service. As a person with autism, I often find myself going against the tide. That's actually, in a way, something that I feel proud of because I feel I'm standing up for what is right.
24岁的思杰患有亚斯伯格症，其中一种自闭症。虽然他是高功能的自闭症患者，生活自理不成问题，外表也看不出有自闭症，但是学习进度还是比别人慢。
I guess I'm a bit of a slow learner myself. When it comes to abstract subjects, I really would struggle to understand them entirely. I hated going to school back then, probably because of the subjects that I was facing as well. Like for instance, mathematics. There's a lot of practice that needs to be done, and learning the concept is one thing, but how do you apply it?
念小学时，思杰的性格孤僻，即使学习遇到困难，他从不敢向人求助。
I was struggling socially in a mainstream school back then. In fact, I didn't really have a lot of friends as well. That also damaged my self-confidence along the way too.
在学校，他经常被同学欺负，所以导致他更加厌恶上学。
Name calling was also very, very common. But being an outcast was what made it worse as well. Like I was punched, and there were times when students would borrow my things, but they won't even give it back. Some would be brutal enough to break my stationery items, like a pencil. There was a time when we were just about to start a spelling test. I made a horrifying discovery that a group of students actually scribbled all over my spelling book, and the discipline master had to be called in to scold the class.
He was bullied, and there were a lot of things that happened there, but he didn't say anything to us. He kept it to himself. So we didn't know what was happening until the counselor called us.
当年，思杰的妈妈并不知道孩子患有自闭症。为了帮助孩子追上课业，她曾找补习教师帮他恶补。但念主流小学的思杰始终不开心。后来是比他年长11岁的姐姐中儿被诊断患有亚斯伯格症，思杰也跟着做了检测，被诊断患有亚斯伯格症。
Every milestone is a miracle for us. We like when they were young, we look at them. I look at him. It's like I wonder how are they going to make it out in the world, because people there are sometimes they can be quite cruel. How are they going to survive in the real world, you know?
I guess I wasn't fully aware of autism back then. Hence, that's why whenever I was like pondering, why is it so hard for me to make friends? I just couldn't, no matter how many times I tried, I just can't seem to connect with people properly.
陈启明不但患有阅读障碍，在他8岁时，他也因发高烧而导致左耳有听障，使他在聆听、阅读和理解课文时更难上加难。
我有找老师、同学帮助我，他们觉得我就是这样笨，教了我半个钟头、1个钟头还是不会，所谓的开窍不了。当时我还记得我的外老师哦，他就拿那个布袋丢了我，然后狠狠地骂了我说：“陈启明，你这一辈子会成功，我头砍下来。”我真的哭了，因为我一直告诉自己，我打从心里告诉自己，我想读书。
为了让患有自闭症的思杰根据自己的进度学习，他的父母决定把他从主流小学转到专门教导自闭症人士的特需学校。
So when Pathlight took him in and I saw how he was happy and he was learning, he was blossoming, that was it for us. So Pathlight was haven for him.
星光学校是一所专门录取有能力接受主流教育的自闭生的院校，分中小学，学生不需修读母语，只专修主要科目。这里的学生都是根据他们的认知、语言表达和书写能力被分班。一般小学教师对学生的比率是2对10。
In Pathlight School, for once I had the support that I really needed. There were teachers, there were classmates I could confide in.
First year I took it, I flunked. It's the main reason why.
I remember the first day where I went for my orientation in Pathlight School. When my dad came to pick me up later, I remember happily telling him, I cannot wait to come back to school tomorrow. That was actually one of the most heartening moments at that point in time in my life.
She also bring me to Pai on this Kung Fu Ci, but unfortunately I can't do it. I can't make it. Yeah.
陈喜明有3个孩子，老三嘉恩今年17岁，从小也和他一样患有阅读障碍，所以免修华文。最近他开始对中文产生兴趣。
比如说，他说 hand H-A-N-D， 他不能够从那个声音，然后去配对那个字母，他不能够。所以即使他念了100次、10000次，就是他就是没有办法。
陈喜明也就是在好奇心的驱使下，也跟着儿子做了检测，结果发现他也患有阅读障碍。然而，当年12岁的喜明并不知道，原来自己并不笨。他因为无心向学，加入了私会党。他染上毒瘾，也从此开始堕落。
也就因为没有机会把书读好，然后很自然的，因为我在学校也慢慢的让人家欺负嘛。当时的我虽然给人家欺负，我很想报复。我有那个很叛逆的心去报复。当我有这样子的一种报复的心态的时候，我开始学坏。80年代初的时候，流氓小混混蛮昌盛的嘛，就你有党派，讲话比较大声嘛，也就因为这样就开始加入那个党派，在党派里面开始看到一些人吸强力胶、吃食大麻。就开始混乱了。其实，当你在做坏的时候，越陷越深了，它是没有的自拔的，因为你必须要有毒品，你必须要这个东西来支撑你的身体的瘾，但没有钱怎么办？那只有做坏事才嘛，无恶不作就对，真的是什么坏事都干尽了，差不多没有一件坏事没有干的。
5个孩子当中，喜明排行第4，家人对他的堕落和叛逆行为都束手无策。
我还记得我的瘾很重的时候，妈妈抢了我的毒品，然后把它放在马桶抽水抽掉的时候，我还记得当时的瘾很重，我打了妈妈。
后悔吗？
后悔。
经过多年的辅导和学习，思杰渐渐地懂得表达自己，各方面的学习能力也有所提升。他最大的理想是要当一名警察，为民除暴安良。
Sometimes whenever I watch scenes of people getting victimized or being bullied, or maybe even getting hurt or being killed by someone, I would imagine myself jumping right into the scene to rescue the victims and stuff like that.
正式入伍服兵役前，思杰和好友积极锻炼体魄，向这个目标迈进。
I'm actually building up my stamina and strengthening my calf muscles, which will allow me to sprint. Because as police officers, sometimes we may have to sprint to go after suspects.
虽然患有亚斯伯格症，他不认为患有自闭症是他朝向梦想的绊脚石。
Most people with Asperger's tend to be very, very good at the things they like. And I believe that would assist me in my job because the fact that I have a passion for law enforcement and I've also come a long way in managing my stress and my emotions, I believe these will help me in my future career as a law enforcement officer.
今天 人人敬仰的铁人名厨陈喜明，当年和毒品纠缠长达15年。他不止一次认定，这辈子的人生或许没有转机了。
你会面临一些朋友的诱惑，那个诱惑你如果没有去克服它的话，它会让你重叠。Very good afternoon. Hope you are well. I am ceramic artist.
铁人名厨陈喜明患有阅读障碍，中2就辍学，也误入歧途。他之后在毒海浮沉了15载，一心要悔改的他，进出中途之家无数次。
Do you afraid of failure when you walk out from here? I have dyslexic. I worried about temptation. A lot of failure, a lot of temptation will come to me.
在这里，他找到了信仰的扶持和毒瘾抗衡。
每一次做见证的时候，都要返回激励我，提醒你，这个东西你必须更勇往直前的把它做得更好。每一天，立枪。
温暖之家为嗜毒和嗜酒者提供12个月和18个月的留宿计划，协助他们重新回到社会，自力更生。
So you eat, you eat, you taste, not too salty.
喜明曾在温暖之家住过2年，他在这里认识了一名改变他下半生的重要人物——陶艺师黄荣廷。
你要戒毒，你整个所谓的心理上、生理上的那一种瘾，你必须要去克服嘛。那再回去的时候，你会一发不可收拾。
在黄博士的教导下，喜明重新掌控了自我，也慢慢的把毒瘾和酒瘾戒掉。喜明说，搓泥需要柔中带刚，而要塑造一个好的陶艺作品，更需要一份专注力。
只有一样东西能够控制我，也就是泥土 clay。我拿着一把泥土的时候，它很自然把我的整个心情、思想给稳定下来、安静下来。它也无形中在帮助我设计一些佳肴。
如果你是 member 的话，是76。
患有自闭症的王思杰念理工学院时，他就开始在电子商品店做兼职，赚取零用。他在这家商店工作了1年多，积极好学的他表现相当优异，他也学会跟人沟通。
There are 2 USB ports, so I can charge. I think what really motivates me to coming to work is the people that I work with. Commissions are given to part-timers. I guess it, in a way, gives me the motivation to step out my comfort zone.
Caleb 至少通常都会表现在80分以上，甚至有时到100分。他的销售能力是很有自信的，做事也很快，在帮忙像排货的时候。这些他都很积极。
凭着坚定的信念，喜明花了5年戒毒。后来，他在多家饮食集团打工，随后也创业开高级餐厅。可是，不幸却生意失败。背负着50万的债务，喜明还要养育一家5口。当时太太怀了第3胎，没工作，他走到穷途末路。
我从来没有想过，在我的人生低谷很低很低的时候，我连买奶粉的那种情况会落在我身上。太太的那碗粥，很不幸的在厨房打翻了，也就因为那碗粥必须给孩子跟他吃，他也没有办法的把肮脏的那个部分给刮开，然后是那个清洁的部分。我想这个经历是很苦的。
为了还债，陈喜明重新打工。有的雇主知道他有吸毒的前科后， 二话不说，马上把他解雇。但他太太始终支持他，不离不弃。
失败是成功之母嘛。我觉得把那个失败扭转为朋友，越是踩我，越是看不起我，越是要觉得我不行。我觉得我自己要给我一个很好的交代，就要把它做得更好。
为了实现当警员的梦想，思杰努力不懈地做足准备。思杰找心理医生给他做评估，以争取机会在服兵役时可以进入警察部队。
I need to have a psychiatrist letter, prove that my autistic conditions has actually improved over time. Since I'm actually currently working at a frontline job, that is actually a proof that I'm actually able to survive in frontline jobs. He said he will declare me fit for non-combat roles, so I hope to attain a PES B role if possible.
或许是年轻时输了大半辈子，喜明后来也参加了铁人3项竞赛，赢得了铁人名厨的美誉。
做铁人3项 Full Ironman， 他必须要完成3.9公里的游泳，180公里的骑脚车，再把42公里的 Marathon 给完成。我觉得这不可思议，很骄傲地告诉你，陈喜明完成了3次。
当年连分辨英文字母都有问题的陈喜明，今天不但精通中西佳肴，还出了6本书，分享他的烹饪经验和人生经历。当年差点被毒品摧毁一生的烂酒鬼，今天因为常年行善，被美国一所大学颁发博士学位。在人生的跑道上，喜明屡败屡战，从不向挫折低头。
我的整个生命像铁一般的干硬生意做得很好，忽然间失败了。但我们的招，它其实是能够扭转的，不要去怕它，因为这只有喜怒哀乐、酸甜苦辣，才能够把我的整个生命弄得这么精彩。